Uh, Welcome to the third episode of Live Up and Close, the rehash series. We hope our previous sessions were insightful to you, giving you some idea about the educational part of the parametric environment. Today, we are going to be talking a little about the parametric on field experience about this field. I am Arya, your host for the day, and I am pleased to introduce a fellow batchmate and a dear friend of mine, Drishti Korat, as our speaker today.
She's a member of the faculty at CEPT University, Ahmedabad, and she has recently established Studio Dvandva with the name of appropriating parametricism in interior architecture and landscape. On behalf of the Rehash team, I'd like to welcome Drishti. Hi, Drishti.
Hi Arya.
Hi, Drishti.
Hello.
How
How
are you doing?
How are you doing?
Amazing. How are you?
I'm great.
So, Drishti, how did you develop an interest in the domain of computational design to take it up as your majors?
Actually, this kind of started back in my undergrad, I think. I mean, back then, of course, you kind of don't know it yet. I was always interested in the kind of designs that are flexible in nature and not really static, or like what we've known so far. So that was a kind of a pattern that was emerging in different studios, and it was only towards the end of it, which was my dissertation, where I was able to formalize this entire concept and take up adaptive architecture as my topic. But of course, back then I didn't understand much of it, so I'd look up all these references and research on it, but I would not understand the tools of it or the methods of it. But I tried understanding the logic behind it and tried to incorporate it a little bit in my dissertation. So that's how the journey kind of roughly started, and then I went on to work a little, and then I took up majors and masters at STEP.
So at CEPT, we looked at more of material exploration, where we were trying to develop new systems of construction, or we were trying to look at material behavior. So whatever materials that we have around it, how can they behave differently, and how can we come up with new methods to design. So it was a very organic process. So we were never really told that this is what you must do. So we were given a lot of freedom to take our own paths, and that's a beautiful way of studying at master's level, right? So we were able to explore different materials. We were also able to learn motion in design, where we kind of collaborated with mechanical engineers, learned the basics of it, and came designed these kinetic structures. So that was also something that we were able to explore. And towards the end of it, I also looked at spatial planning as my thesis. So these were different aspects that we were able to explore at CEPT, and the process was very organic. So I like that culture and that idea that CEPT promotes. So that's a super interesting and super amazing way to look at computational design per se. But the studio that we're offering now is, in fact, I'm assisting a studio, which is quite structured in nature. So it's not this organic kind of a learning, but it's more rooted in, say, the realities. So we have actual sites, and we are looking at the problems that these sites have, and we're looking at how computational design can help us offer different kind of solutions, or kind of give us design ideas which are different from the traditional ones. So it's very much structured, it is very much organized, it is very much rooted, and very much relevant also, because we're looking at post-COVID designs. So
Yes.
how this world, so I mean, that's the most interesting part of it, of computational design in general. It is so active, it is so relevant, it is so here, it's so present in this today's situation. So we're not just looking at relevance to the context, but also to the society at large. So where we are as a society. And as we speak, there are probably coders across the world who are, making new plugins, making new softwares, and developing tools that can help us make such post-COVID designs. So it's an extremely active community, and it's also open source. So that's something that kind of adds on to it, and we are able to use the technology of today to solve the problems of today. So that's the most exciting part that I find about the studio that we're conducting now. And lastly, if we talk about practice, so practice, of course, is going to be a lot different. It's a completely different ball game altogether, and there are a lot of constraints, definitely. But here also, we are trying to kind of find new ways or find different solutions. So, for example, we had this site in Ahmedabad. It's an office space, and the height of the site was very low, and the client had kind of a preference that he does not want to see the wires and cables running through, but at the same time we could not afford to have a false ceiling because that would just reduce the height. So it was a very unique, complicated problem that we still do not really have a solution for in our conventional methods. So we kind of looked at it from a computational point of view, where we designed this wave kind of a ceiling which was directly mounted on the slab, and that hid all the wires, but it did not reduce the floor height, and it also kind of became this center focus element. So sometimes we use it to solve problems in a different way. Sometimes, like in this jewelry store, we've kind of used an installation, parametric installation, to kind of modify the experience or the way the space is perceived. So there are different purposes that computation design can solve, and we're trying to explore as many as we can in practice.
Yeah. Right. So I must say that the first and the foremost thing that we must understand is our attempt has to be to simplify and reinterpret and to work on the rule that any given project output is not it cannot be universally applicable given the cost and the environment. So that's a great way to explain your practice. So talking more about it, what has been your philosophy behind setting up Studio Dvandva, and how have you incorporated these methods in your own project, and what challenges do you face?
Okay, so that's pretty much it pretty much emerged from what you are talking about. So there is this perceived notion within our community itself, so within designers and architects, who think that computational design or parametricism is probably something just fancy or just done for the sake of it, or it's a waste of material, waste of resources, and it has no real it does not really solve any problem. Yeah, it has no application, does not solve any problem, or is not relevant to our context. It's something that's happening in the West. So that's this notion. But as and when I got in the field, I realized that's absolutely not true. Like, you can make a rectangular box, but that can also be parametrically designed.
Yeah.
So it could be something as simple as courtyards that we've been seeing since ages, which are part of vernacular. So vernacular typology can also be emerged or improved with computational designs. So so the larger idea was to we have this technology and kind of appropriate it in our context. So whatever tools and methods that we know, how to apply it in our context, and how can it be a problem solution method, and not really just because the client is ready to pay that much money, or the client is fascinated by the fancy form. So not doing for the sake of it, but doing it for the right reasons. That was the larger idea. And when we kind of look at challenges, I think there are many. You practice as well, and you would know. So probably every level there's a different kind of challenge.
Struggle. Yes, I like
so
struggles.
That's true for any designer, actually. But computational more so, because it's so new and it's so different. So starting from design stage itself. So when you're designing something, you have to first break off from all the notions that you already have about designs, or about the designs that you see around you. So the approach itself has to be different. And since these are always new methods, or these are always new systems of construction. You have to invent geometries, you have to kind of come up with new joineries, you have to design, experiment a lot before coming up with a design. So there is some struggle at design level. And of course, after that, there is the struggle at client level. So, it's a common notion that, if something is unfamiliar, you'd be excited by it at the first, but then kind of a little worried or a little hesitant that, don't really know what this design is, or, 10 years from now, will it perform? Will it be too difficult to maintain? Or all these apprehensions that clients have, and rightly so. I mean, anything that's unfamiliar takes a little while to be used to or to be accepted. So so people like that design, but they're a little hesitant to incorporate it within their own projects. And of course, when we look at budgets, so initially, we're not going with simplistic designs. So then, of course, there'll be a little more of technology involved, a little more of material or man-hour involved. So all of that also kind of pushes a budget little, at least in the beginning, and in long term, it could be something that has reduced the cost, but in the beginning, sometimes it has a higher investment cost. So, at budget level is also a little difficult. And of course, at execution level. So since these are designs that, agencies have not ever executed before. So finding the right kind of agency who will be able to experiment, who are willing to try something new. And, you also have to be sure that they would be able to deliver once you put in all the one amount of money. Yeah, so the finishing of it, the precision of it, all of that. So that also needs to be taken care of. And sometimes you also have to go ahead and train them, or, kind of take them through the process, ki aise karo, aise nahi karna hai, and all of that. So at probably every level of design, there is some challenge involved when you want to do something new.
Right.
Yeah.
So actually, given the range of subdivisions we have in this domain, but everything lies in our advantage. We have the power of getting a grip over anything that is difficult to describe and build by just controlling its complexity. So I know there are a lot of struggles, yes, involved in this, but then again, when we achieve, the final output, that is something we have.
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah, that's something out of this world. So actually, you are doing a great job. Having known you personally, I can very confidently say that.
Thank you.
So Drishti, what does the future look like as a computational designer to you? How would you like to, explore this domain further?
Okay, yeah. So I think we all were there at this point where we had to, choose our majors, and we were like, "Ha, this is very interesting." पर पता नहीं यार आगे स्कोप क्या है. आई मीन कल को मुझे जॉब कौन देगा, या कौन ही मुझे प्रोजेक्ट देगा कि जिसमें मैं ऐसा कुछ डिजाइन कर सकूं. सो वी ऑल हैड दिस idea or this thought when we were getting into the field, and at that point it was just something very interesting and very challenging, and we decided to go ahead with it.
And but visually very appealing.
Yeah, of course that visual charm always stays. So it was something very new, it was something very interesting, and we kind of took that leap of faith and jumped into it. But I'm so glad that we did. I mean, today when we are now more, familiar with who is doing it, or, how many people are kind of wanting to do it or are exploring it. So, back then it seemed like something that's 5-10 years ahead, ki pata nahi India mein to kabhi hoga, and it's just happening in some major cities in the West. But that's so not true. Like today we know that like studios in Ahmedabad, in Baroda, in even in second tier cities, people are experimenting. Yeah, and so beautifully, and doing it in the right way with the right methodology. So it's definitely where our domain at large is moving towards, and not just architecture per se, but design domain in general. So it's the direction that we are all moving towards, and it's great to be a part of that movement. So that's where we all started. But at a more personal level, I feel there's always a struggle, but we're every day trying to find new ways or more ways to incorporate these methodologies in our project. So sometimes we're looking at, say, landscape patterns, flooring patterns, which are parametric in nature. So again, appropriateness is very important. So we wouldn't want to impose our ideas. If the context or the site does not require computation or parametric methods, we will not use it. But we will always try and find some scope around it and, kind of express a little and kind of give our clients something that's a little more than basic and a little more out there and a little more experimental in nature. So that effort is always there from our end. And I also feel it shouldn't really end with built environment itself. I mean, my personal larger aim in life is to venture into different domains, all the different designs. So again, Netflix is probably using these tools to kind of make their UX UI interface. Yes. So these methods are really boundless and scaleless and very flexible and fluid across the domains. So what I find super interesting is to venture into these different domains, probably collaborate with different designers and come up with some collections which are very very experimental in nature. So right now it's all up in my head, but let's see if things work out. We're working towards it, and let's see if things work out. You'll probably see some jewelry design, or probably see some generative art, or maybe some, I don't know, cake icing patterns on our page. So yeah, so possibilities are really endless, and it will be always interesting to kind of cross domains and see what new can come up. Yeah.
Yes, right. Very interesting. I mean, we do have come a long way, and we have a long way of accepting and expecting a lot from this field, right? And we are certainly slowly and steadily reaching our goal. So last but never the least, of course, what does parametric design mean to you?
It's probably the most difficult question. So I think when you ask someone what is architecture, I think none of our faculties were able to define. So everybody has their own version of it, or has their own understanding of it. So so to kind of look at it in a broader perspective, or looking at design in a broader perspective. So design is nothing but a series of decisions, or a tool of decision making. So parametricism or computational design kind of offers a way to make those decisions, but in a less estimated way and more calculated way. So that's the change, or that's the difference in approach that parametricism as a method offers. So it's basically, looking at a design problem and breaking down it into smaller parts, which are its aspects or which are its parameters, and kind of learning the relationship between them and using those parameters and relationships to kind of come up with a lot of outcomes, a lot of iterations, a lot of designs, and then choosing the one which is optimum, or then choosing the one which fits best in your situation. Right. So basically it's kind of this shift of looking at design as a product. Instead of looking at design as a product, we're trying to look at design as a process, and we're trying to design this process, which will then design the product for us. So that's the largest shift in thinking which parametricism has brought largely in our field, and I feel it should not be really restricted to design. I mean, it can be used for any design decision. So, for example, I have this design and I want to execute it. What machines or what tools should I use? So, looking at the parameters of, say, time, or of, say, material wastage, or, say, maybe amount of money spent. So I'm looking at all these factors, and I'm trying to kind of fit or find the one which is most fit in this particular situation. So that's the larger aim. So, given the technology and the kind of, logistics we have today, I could practically get my house maybe 3D printed in London and, transport it or ship it to Ahmedabad. Yeah, I mean, that's also possible. So technology and where we are as a society offers that. But is that the ideal way to do it. I mean, is that the best use of our resources? No, it's not. It's not the best way to do it. It's not the most efficient way to do it. So largely what I feel is we should also use parametricism to kind of make our designs more feasible. So it's not just about making different designs and using different approach to design, but also make those designs very feasible, very doable, very practical in nature. So that's also kind of focus, or it's also kind of scope that parametricism now offers us. And of course, it does not have to limit itself to profession. I mean, maybe it might sound a little neurotic, but today, like, I mean, you know me, you know how indecisive I am, and today this change in focus. So it has completely changed the way I think. Like when you look at ourselves in say 12th standard, or when you look at people who've not studied design. So after graduation, we feel that change. We feel the change in the way we look at world. So designers have a completely different way of looking at world. And after studying this as my majors, and after getting into this field, I can feel that second wave of change in the way I look at things, or change in the way we approach things. So today, probably I'll also, while deciding what to shop online, I'll still look at, okay, price, value, material, durability, all of these factors, and then decide what's the most optimum. So it kind of creeps into your larger psyche and the way you look at world also. And of course, at a professional level, it has opened in a completely new, boundless world of possibilities that previously I couldn't even imagine. And so much so that today I feel that had I not taken up this majors, or had I not ventured into this specialization, I probably would have not been able to hope to become, say, a good designer, or use the resources we have, or use the technology that we have in a best way. So that's a complete shift in the way we look at world and look at and design at large.
Right. Interesting. So actually, I have had a conversation with a few people previously, and and what I used to say to them was, you have to be a little bit of everything in order to achieve something that you have started with. You have to be a little bit a contractor. You have to be a person who will understand the climate. You have to be a person who will understand the material, etc., the machineries, and the list goes on. So on that note, I'm actually going to end today's conversation. It's been a pleasure connecting with you, Drishti.
Absolutely, here as well.
We'll continue having our sets of discussions always. And
absolutely,
I wish you all the very best for Studio Dvandva.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me.
To everybody else, do check their work. They go by the name Studio Dvandva. For our viewers, hope these conversations have been thought-provoking and have tickled your minds in more than just one way. The last session of the Rehash series is going to be about a paper very recently published by the Association of Computer-Aided Architectural Design Research in Asia, CADREA, by the very recently elected secretary, Ms. Urvi Sheth, with Aisha Fida. Stay tuned, guys. We would love to hear from you. Keep sharing your feedbacks and help us grow. Signing off now. Take care. Bye-bye, Drishti. It was so good to have you.
Absolutely lovely. Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.